Hi, we're getting ready to read December 23rd, Luke 23, and we're coming to the culmination of Jesus' ministry here on earth and leading into his crucifixion. He came as king, but first he had to conquer sin. He had to conquer the power of evil in men's hearts, and he did this by paying the price so that we could be free. Um, God is a just God, and just means justice will be done. And in a perfect world, if you do something wrong, you get in trouble for it, you pay the price, and then you go again. And nobody had paid, we were not able to pay the price for the sin that we do. And people might think, well, what's wrong with doing X, Y, and Z? What's the big deal? Well, it's not, we don't sin against ourselves. We sin against God. He's the one in charge. He's the one who wants things to be just. He wants things to be fair. And any person in their right mind wants justice and fairness, except when it comes to them. We all want the exception because we know that we can't be perfect. But Jesus, who lived a perfect and sinless life, as we observed in these 22 chapters leading up to this, who is nothing but kindness and love and teaching and, yes, correcting, but discipline is considered a form of love, not harsh discipline. We're talking about corrective in terms of learning to do the right things. And, what kind of parent would love their child if they let them run into the road? There's times that we need to learn certain lessons, and that's what a good parent does. And God is our Father who wants justice in this world, and he wants things to be fair, didn't want us to have to pay the price. He so wanted to be in relationship with us that he chose to pay the price for us, so that he could be just and merciful, both of them, just and merciful. And the price is paid, but we receive the mercy through his salvation. So now I want to read chapter 23, and then I won't talk afterwards. I just wanted to, we get done reading and it seems so serious sometimes that I don't want to just sit and yammer after that. This was more important. All right. Then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Christ, a king." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you king of the Jews?" "Yes, it's as you say," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted, "He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and has come all the way here." On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. When he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased because for a long time he'd been wanting to see him from what he had heard about him, and he hoped to see him perform some miracle. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day, Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Pilate called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I've examined him in your presence and have found no basis for your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. As you can see, he has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore, I will punish him and then release him." With one voice, they cried out, "Away with this man! Release Barabbas to us!" Barabbas had been thrown into a prison for his insurrection in the city and for murder. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" For the third time he spoke to them. "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty." Therefore, I will have him punished and then release him." But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, and one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. As they led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the barren women, the wombs that have never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' And then they will say on the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and on the hills, 'Cover us.' For if men do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called Skull, they were crucified with him, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ of God and the chosen one." The people stood watching, and the rulers even, the soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you're under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "I tell you the truth. Today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about the 6th hour, and darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour, for the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was a righteous man." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. But all those who knew him, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching these things. Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action. He came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. Then he took it down, wrapped it in linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had been laid. It was preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and saw the tomb and how his body was laid in it. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes, but they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the commandment. And then tomorrow is our last day. Tomorrow's the 24th, and yes, we will be starting reading the Acts of the Disciples, the book of Acts, on January 1st. So I hope to see you on the other side. But tomorrow we will read about the resurrection. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.